Spreadsheet, real FP&A stories from the trenches. A roundtable panel discussion brought to you by the Controllers Council. My name is Neil Brown, Executive Director of the Controllers Council. And before I introduce our expert panelists and our partner sponsor, let me share some brief housekeeping items. First, we'll have Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please use your GoToWebinar control panel to ask our experts questions. Next, this webinar is CPE eligible with 4 polling questions, so please answer each poll for CPE or answer to benchmark your peers. Please allow up to 48 hours to receive your CPE certificates via email, and if you do not receive, check your junk or spam folder. Also regarding CPE, you'll receive a brief survey directly after the webcast, so please complete. And finally, you'll receive a link to this webcast via email in the next 24 hours, so no need for notes or screenshots. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce our partner and sponsor, Insight Software. Insight Software is a global provider of comprehensive solutions for the Office of the CFO and the Controllership. We believe an actionable business strategy begins and ends with accessible financial data, with solutions across financial planning and analysis, FP&A, accounting, and operations. We transform how teams operate, empowering leaders to make timely and informed decisions. Learn more at www.insightsoftware.com. Now allow me to introduce our superstar panelists, Ted Weitzel, Philip Peck, and Mike Wiley. Ted Weitzel is SVP Finance and Operations at Logic.io, a commerce engine which exited to ServiceNow just this past May. Prior roles included contract CFO, SVP Finance and Ops at G2, the big software analyst company, which was exited to Primera, and controller at Steel Brick Software, which was sold to Salesforce. Controller at G2 prior to that, and accounting director at Big Machines that was sold to Oracle. Are you seeing any patterns here? Ted earned a BS Business Accounting from Miami University, Ohio, and is a CPA, although inactive currently. Ted is a founding advisory board member for the Controllers Council, so we've known Ted from the beginning. Philip Peck is VP Finance Transformation at Peloton Consulting Group and one of the top FP&A experts in the country. He currently serves on the FP&A Advisory Council for the Association for Financial Professionals, AFP, and prior roles included VP of Finance Practice at Palladium Consulting and client-side roles for OSE USA, Veritech, and R.R. Donnelley. Philip earned an MBA from Northwestern University and a BS Industrial Management from Purdue University. And Mike Wiley is Senior Product Manager, Spreadsheet Server at Insight Software. Mike is an expert on how organizations can improve their reporting processes. He has extensive experience working with Spreadsheet Server's fast, flexible Excel reporting across 140 plus ERPs. Mike is a graduate of North Carolina State University's School of Mechanical Engineering. Welcome, Ted, Philip, and Mike.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, welcome, welcome. And with that, we'll get to our first panel question. We'll be sprinkling in polls as well, but we always start out with panelists, give us a little bit of an overview about your company and, if possible, your finance and accounting functions. Ted, would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I'm the 0 to 50 million ARR guy for a investment group slash consortium. They either find and buy or just build software products with the idea of selling them to strategics within 4 to 5 years. So we've had really good success. Sold a company to Oracle, sold a company to Salesforce, just sold a company to ServiceNow. We did not sell a company to Primera. It was a recap that Primera led at $1 billion valuation. So that's good. But yeah, so very much so, you know, we try to be very lean as we ensure that we have product market fit. We get great customers who are advocates for us, and then we can grow the company and make sure that we have really good, solid attach rates and adoption and happy customers, and then we move to sell it to a strategic. So been doing this about 20 years now. Nothing but growth startup software.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. Philip, tell us about some of your consulting clients.
Certainly. Quick backdrop first, just a little bit more of who Peloton Consulting Group, and then I'll pivot over to you know, how we work with clients specifically in the FP&A space. So Peloton Consulting Group, we help organizations drive digital transformation across their enterprise. We provide advisory services, going to be advisory consulting, and also technical implementation consulting, and also managed services capabilities, definitely in the FP&A space, enterprise performance management, but other areas as well: ERP, supply chain management, human capital management, CX, customer experience, analytics, and data management for the cloud. We believe we have a pretty innovative and collaborative implementation methodology that minimizes surprises, optimally aligns best practices from a business process with the tools and technology, and drives adoption. We bring functional, industry, and technical expertise across the journey when helping organizations drive their kind of big picture initiatives. From an FP&A lens, my specific role as part of advisory services is to really help our clients, our prospects and clients, think a bit differently. How can you embrace, adapt, and adopt leading edge thinking across FP&A and finance? Best practices in planning and forecasting, best practices in reporting and analytics, helping to enable the organization through processes, technology, access to data and information, and even the people side organizationally drive better decision making, where FP&A is the indispensable business partner helping to optimize business decisions across the organization. I'm looking to sharing some client experiences as we work with the esteemed panelists here, Neil, and also the questions that you'll be teeing up here throughout the discussion.
Excellent. Thank you, Philip. And Mike, tell us about yourself and some of the clients you work with.
Yeah, certainly. Well, hello everyone. It's great to be here and get to meet each of you. Yeah, so I'm Mike Wiley. I'm the senior product manager for one of our solutions called Spreadsheet Server at insightsoftware. We're a very large company with many different solutions that all serve different functions under the office of the CFO. So our goal is really to enable and empower you as finance leaders and accountants, controllers, CFOs, just to do your jobs easier, to have technology that comes alongside you with all of your different systems, applications. Maybe you've got data in ERPs or EPMs or everywhere else. We're really bringing that together so you can make sense of it and use our software or our solutions to just make that easier to do and put time back in your day. But one of the great things that I get to do being in product is driving the roadmap, working alongside customers to gather feedback on what it is that you need, what you'd like to see in applications, and how we can innovate to continue to provide great solutions, solving problems along the way. One of the fun things with or at least the solution I work with, is that we integrate with over 140 different ERPs, and so we're very well versed with many different businesses, whether it's small businesses, mid-size, enterprise. We have customers across all of those, and so it definitely creates challenges for us, but we get to learn a lot about all kinds of different industries, verticals, applications, specialties. So it really helps us to better understand the market, where things are going, and how we can address those pains for each of you.
Right. Well, thank you, panelists, for that. And before we dig into some of our meaty panel questions, we're going to do a quick poll. So let me launch that. Come on. There we go. Okay. Improving FP&A is a top priority in our organization. Select one of the following. So we started out with a real easy one. It'll get harder. This one's easy. All answers are anonymous, confidential, and they will tie in with our panel questions. So take a few more seconds, please. Watching the voting. And I'll just share the results briefly on this one. We won't talk about this too much. We'll maybe drill into the others, but huge majority, 57% agree, 30% strongly agree. So 87% are in agreement, and only 4% disagree. 1% strongly disagree. So that's interesting, but we're not going to dive into that too much because the other ones relate more to the panel. So with that, let's get to panel question number 2. How do you manage FP&A in your organization? Is FP&A manual or automated? Is it managed internally or externally?
Hey, Neil.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in and just say, like, wow, FP&A is valued in your organization as a high priority. That's an amazing seat to be sitting in, because over the last 20 years, especially in tech, finance has kind of been like the thing on the back burner of the wheel, like, hey, you better not screw it up, but we're not going to give you any money. So really cool if you're in that position to answer that question in a positive manner. Go you. And we'll move on.
Oh boy, yeah. Ted has some different perspective as a startup king here, so that's thank you, and feel free to chime in, any panelist at any time, even if I'm moving in a different direction. But Philip, why don't you take this? And again, I know you're in the consultant role, so maybe you'll share something about some of your clients that are interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Neil, what I'd like to do is almost paint a continuum. When you think about the world of organizations and their relative maturity in the FP&A space, at Peloton Consulting Group over now 15 plus years, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of organizations, and I should say my company has, helping them ostensibly improve their FP&A and finance capabilities. So I'm going to paint the, I'll call it the immature side, on that scale of 1 to 10, closer to the lower end, and then someone who's very mature and has really built out a super set of capabilities where they're world-class FP&A. So let's start at the ones who are somewhat more immature. Manual would be a good way to characterize an organization like that. I recently just started a project with a manufacturing organization, and they're good size. They're probably a little over $1 billion in total revenue. They're actually privately held, and they kind of have a lot of legacy thinking. Not that they're not good people or smart, but they don't know what they don't know. Somewhat of that classic phrase. I would characterize their environment as manually intensive, non-standard processes throughout the organization. They've grown through acquisition, so segments and subsidiaries don't do things the same way. And even thinking about the different planning events, a long-range plan, an annual plan or a budget, a forecast, inconsistent processes, disconnected processes, differing levels of detail, long cycle times. They're heavily dependent on Excel. That's not necessarily bad, but when it's highly fragmented, individual models, lack of documentation, kind of the tyranny of spreadsheets comes to the forefront because of their environment. They're also very people dependent. Institutional knowledge that lives inside of people's heads, not systematized and codified, that can be leveraged across the organization. They tend to be very reactive from what we're learning. And that could be reactive from a metadata management, data integration. Could just be reactive in their ability to respond to the core mission of what FP&A is. In a sense, they're barely staying above water. They get the basics done, but Herculean efforts to do that, be it a report, be it a plan, be it a request, whatever it is, such that they have very, very limited time for analysis, insights, business partnering. The other component is they're very insular / internally focused. They have limited purview into the broader industry and infusing that from an FP&A perspective. The other end of the continuum, an organization that we've worked with for a number of years, they're in the car retailing business, also with a captive finance company, and they also have some other different operations, wholesale operations, et cetera. Over 30 billion in revenue. They have moved to a highly streamlined and automated FP&A environment. They have completely integrated business planning, connecting strategy, ops plans, and the expected outcomes from a financial perspective. Streamline best practice business processes for planning, forecasting, reporting, and analytics. Heavily driver-based planning and forecasting, where they have a well-designed enterprise performance management solution with seamless automated data integration to the various source systems they have. I could go on many of the best practices and capabilities they have, short cycle times, in the moment forecasting, reporting, and analytics, kind of analytics at the speed of business is what we want to call it. At the end of the day, that organization, their FP&A function, they are indispensable business partners.
Wow, excellent. Appreciate that range. Mike, how about you? Again, your perspective from your clients and such.
Yeah, sure. So I would honestly echo a lot of what you just said there. And I think the way you phrased where organizations are at today and relative to their size or maturity, I think is a very good mindset around it. Because when we work with the smaller, maybe younger organizations, it is very manual. But as they grow, the complexity increases. But oftentimes, like you said, it's usually individuals who have that knowledge in their head, but then trying to put a process behind it and automate it, it becomes very challenging. So we definitely see a lot of that as well. A huge dependence on Excel. Everybody's using Excel to some extent, but you're right. If you're not using it effectively, it can be a bit chaotic. It can lead to users looking at different reports or different metrics at different points in time, and everybody has their own personal copies of those reports. So if it's not a well-managed process, it can definitely be a very manual and inconsistent process with inconsistent outcomes. So I definitely would say we see a lot of that in the organizations we work with, and that's where we come alongside and try to help get them to that automation level. But I definitely would say it certainly depends on the company's size, the longevity, their priorities, where they're at, and what they've started, and what's they've learned along the way. Some organizations try many different methods and then ultimately come back to Excel once again, and now they're back to a manual process. So I'd say that's the most common thing we see, but there definitely are a lot of options out there.
Ted, your perspective. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, Philip and Mike, great insight, especially going from the gamut of less mature to more mature. How do you identify those people that have that tribal or institutional knowledge and then download it from the head? Because they're probably working in some spreadsheet they know completely inside or out. When you systematize that, it can be troublesome. So are you going through and giving them that consultative approach and making sure that you're actually downloading their brain into into some sort of flow chart or process map or something like that, and then systematize it? Or are you kind of helping them say, hey, maybe we should reinvent the wheel along the way?
Great question. I'll jump in first here, Mike. Typically what we're doing with our clients, first and foremost, for those individuals who truly are the, I like to use the term, the Jedi Knights, they're the ones who kind of own all that institutional knowledge. We often find they're reluctant, they're reticent sometimes to share because it's theirs. It's, you know, they have it and others don't. So you have to crack open that nut first. Once you start getting inside of peoples or functions, you peel the onion, and you do it in a very consultative, collaborative, we're here to help you kind of way, as best you can. But we're always filtering / pressure testing. They may be doing it one way, and we like to come with a point of view and say there's often a slightly better way or an alternative way to think about that particular process or that data set or what you're trying to achieve. So it's a little bit of both to say there's often okay practices, good practices, or even some best demonstrated practices, but they're not systematized, they're not codified, there's not alignment across the organization, even how to think about the value chain. So you navigate, and often it takes you a few iterations to find those people or functions, whoever them are. Hopefully you get them on your team such that you can help that organization, but it's definitely a process, and it's not, per se, it's not magic. You're often shaping the ball of clay as you go along to get to hopefully, aha, now we're at a really good, well-designed future state process. Now let's apply technologies and tools and capabilities against that fundamental process.
Yeah, I asked that question in a very, let's say, strategic and or intentional way. Because if you are going to be leading any sort of FP&A transformation in your organization, one, be the subject matter expert, know your model inside and out if you're doing it in Excel or Google Sheets or wherever you're doing it right now, and then leverage outside tools, resources, consultants, and bring it internally through you, not through another manner where it's being shoved down your throat. And I think, you know, being able to advocate for yourself as your organization grows has got to be the biggest item on your list as far as professional development goes. And please be the ones who are always saying, hey, you know, I'm going to keep my FP&A budget and my resourcing under this level per our plan. These are the things as we grow I want to bring in, and start thinking about that on the front end, so that someday down the road some board member doesn't say, oh, actually I'm going to go, I know this guy Philip, I know this guy Mike, right? They're coming in and they're going to like basically take over your function. No, like go find your people, your tools, your resources, and have a plan, a roadmap, not only for your FP&A process and plan, but also for consultants, tooling, best practices that you want to bring in as your company matures.
Awesome.
Well stated. Wow.
Yeah, good stuff, guys.